But here's the secret. Behind that perfect TV moment, behind the legend of Luke Spencer, the real man, Anthony Geary, was quietly falling apart. Now, most people think they know the story: fame, fortune, endless fans. But in reality, that spotlight nearly destroyed him. Anthony Geary didn't like fame, didn't chase it. In fact, he dreaded it. He was never one for Hollywood parties, red carpets, or big interviews. He hated being turned into a symbol he couldn't control, trapped behind the name Luke Spencer, a name that brought him so much attention he couldn't even go grocery shopping without people recognizing him. But here's where it gets real. That same fame also dragged him into years of depression, addiction, and an overwhelming sense of being totally alone, even when the world seemed to love him. There was even a time when he came close to ending it all, desperate just to escape the shadow of the character who made him a household name. The world didn't see it. All they saw was the charming, complicated Luke Spencer. But off camera, Geary was losing touch with the life he once loved. He begged the network, the writers, anyone who'd listen, let me go. Let the character die. But the audience wouldn't have it. The studios definitely wouldn't have it. And Hollywood, well, Hollywood never lets go of a golden goose. Here's the wild thing. Geary was never the typical actor hungry for fame. The more people celebrated him, the more he shrank away. And behind that smile, behind those intense, layered performances, there was so much more going on, stuff nobody knew. He was dragged into a scandal with a director who made life hell for him because of rumors about his sexuality. People whispered for years about who he really loved, but nobody actually knew. Geary kept a secret relationship for decades, vanished to Europe to finally live his life on his own terms, and just faded out of the limelight. While America kept cheering for Luke Spencer, the real Anthony Geary slowly disappeared, so nobody had to see the cracks forming in his soul. So how did a kid from nowhere become the face of American daytime TV? Let's start at the beginning, way before the fame, before the cameras, before Luke and Laura. Anthony Geary grew up in Coville, Utah, a place so tiny that if you blinked, you'd miss it. No movie theaters, no flashy lights, just endless dirt roads, construction sites, and quiet, peaceful evenings. His family were devout Mormons, strict, disciplined, and dead serious about living a clean, honest life. In their world, humility came first. Nobody drank, nobody smoked, and everyone worked hard. That world shaped Geary from the start. His dad was a construction worker, a guy who built everything he had with his own hands. Every night he'd come home exhausted, covered in sweat, but proud. For Geary, those weren't just lessons about hard work. They were lessons about sticking to your path no matter how rough it gets. His mom was the soft spot, the one who showed him how to be tender and caring. She's the reason he could look at someone and see their pain, not just their words. Even as a kid, Geary wasn't like the other kids. He watched movies not to escape, but to study. He took notes, tracked who directed what, and obsessed over the complicated villains, not the heroes. He wanted to play characters nobody else dared to touch. School was never his thing except for drama. Every time the school put on a play, everyone just assumed Geary would get the lead. Then, like something out of a movie, he scored a drama scholarship to the University of Utah, a golden ticket out of Coville. This wasn't just about chasing fame for him. It was about chasing truth, going after a life that actually fit his weird creative spirit. But don't get it twisted. He didn't walk straight into stardom. He paid his dues on the stage in front of live audiences where you only get one shot, no retakes, no do-overs. He poured his heart into every role, even in college, and earned a rare presidential award for drama. Huge for a kid from nowhere. Then one day, out of the blue, an Oscar-winning actor named Jack Albertson came to town, saw Geary perform, and straight up asked him, "Want to hit the road and tour with me?" That was the turning point. Geary left college, hopped in the car, and just like that, started a whole new life. L.A. wasn't welcoming. The city chews up nobodies and spits them out. But Geary wasn't interested in being a pretty face for the camera. He went back to the basics. Theater. 50 plays in a few years, on every kind of stage, for every kind of crowd. He learned how to command a room with a single look, how to make people believe in a character's pain. Those years of grinding on the stage? That's where he built the tools that would one day make Luke Spencer more than just a soap character. Bit by bit, he found his way onto TV. Guest spots on cop shows, one-off appearances. He made every role count, even if it was tiny. He never treated them like throwaways. That's why people started to notice. In 1971, he landed a guest spot as Roger on a sitcom. The character? Suspected of being gay at a time when TV was terrified to even mention it, but Geary refused to play it for laughs. He made Roger a real person, no cliches, no cheap shots. It was a tiny revolution, one of the first times an LGBTQ character had been played with real dignity on TV. Quietly, Geary was breaking ground nobody else dared to touch. Around the same time, he got cast in a daytime soap. Not exactly the career move he dreamed of, but there was a silver lining. He met a producer with an eye for misfits. She saw something special in Geary, not the looks, not the typical charm, but something deeper. When she took over a big new soap a few years later, she remembered him. That's how she created a role from scratch, just for him. That role? Luke Spencer. At first, Luke was supposed to be background, 13 weeks, then gone. But the character exploded. Luke was nothing like the other leads. He was unstable, haunted, and let's be honest, a guy with a dark past. He even committed one of TV's most controversial acts, something that should have ended the character, but people couldn't look away. Instead of hating him, viewers were fascinated. Why? Because Geary didn't just play Luke, he became him. He brought wounds, fear, and guilt to every scene. Luke wasn't forgiven, but he was understood. Everything changed in 1981 when the wedding episode aired. 30 million people tuned in, more than most sports championships. That moment made history. Suddenly, soaps were cool, magazines, news shows, everyone was obsessed with Luke and Laura. Geary was everywhere, instantly recognizable. But the weird part? Luke wasn't your usual hero. He was complicated, scarred, unpredictable. Geary forced people to confront the fact that even broken people can be loved. Awards started piling up. 8 daytime Emmys for lead actor, a record. But it wasn't about trophies. It was about the work. In total, Geary played Luke for more than 1,200 episodes. That's 5 times as many episodes as Friends, double what Law and Order SVU has done, more than Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones put together. Imagine acting that long, day in and day out, pouring your soul into a character. That's a whole lifetime. But here's the dark side. Geary's success trapped him. He always said, the more successful you are in soaps, the less chance you have to be anything else. He tried other roles, other shows, even movies, but people only saw Luke. No matter what he did, he couldn't escape that shadow. The job that gave him everything also took everything from him. For some actors, one iconic role is a dream come true. For Geary, it was a locked door. So what about you? Did Luke and Laura mean something to you growing up? Or maybe you just get what it's like to want some quiet after years of noise. Do you think a life is worth more just because everyone sees it? Or is real success having the guts to live exactly the way you want, no matter what anyone thinks? Share your stories, your memories, or even just a thank you in the comments. Who knows? Someone out there might need to hear it. And if this story hit home, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more, and stick around. Because sometimes the most legendary lives are the ones lived quietly, far from the cameras.